What is your favorite art movement? Is it Impressionism with its beautiful landscapes? Is it pop art with its revolutionary mass production approach to art? Or are you a fan of the Bauhaus school and its controversial style? There are literally hundreds of historical art movements, and the one that I find to be the most underrated of them all is Dadaism.
La chanson d'un dadaïste qui n'était ni gai ni triste et aimait une bicycliste qui n'était ni gai ni triste. Mais les poules jouent de...
Not only was it revolutionary, anti-war and anti-capitalist, in a nutshell, the Dada movement was a straight up fuck you to society, but not really in a mean way, more like a smiling and casual but nevertheless honest fuck you. A good example of this is the famous Dadaist art piece Fountain by Marcel Duchamp from 1917. It's just a regular urinal. The whole point was challenging what art even was. And what I love about it the most is not the original artistic act of taking a random urinal and displaying it. It's the fact that multiple performance artists have later attempted to pee into it. That's the spirit of Dadaism. It's childlike, it's unhinged, it's without rules or structure. In other words, it's pure expression. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Anyway, you may ask yourself, what caused these artists to break with society and traditional art? Well, the 1910s were pretty rough. World War I was one of the most horrifying and inhumane events in all of human history, and it led many artists to change their attitude towards the modern world. The Dada movement believed that the reason and logic of bourgeois capitalist society had led people into this war, and they therefore rejected this rational ideology. Instead, they embraced chaos, nonsense, individualism, and iconoclasm. Dada was anarchy, which is even reflected in how nobody can say for sure how the name Dada came to be. One common belief is that the German artist Richard Hülsenbeck slid a knife at random into a dictionary, where it landed on Dada, the French term for hobby horse. Others think that it evokes the first words of a child, and still others speculate that the name was inspired by a shampoo brand from Zurich. There are even more theories that blur the term's origin, which I think could have been deliberately placed by the Dada artists to intentionally devoid the name of all meaning. That's just my personal theory, but I think it would fit the Dadaist spirit. Anyway, so let's get to the point. The reason why Dadaism was such an important movement. If you think about it, we're all living in an inherently structured world. Our society is structured by laws and class, art is structured into genres and art styles, time is structured in weeks, days, hours and seconds, and even our language is structured into words and sentences. These structures give us security and allow for exchange of knowledge, but they also massively restrict the freedom of our spirits. I always understood Dada as something that releases this irrational, emotional, natural spirit of ours, which is suppressed by the rules of modern society. And to me, that's what art in general is all about. Let me explain this with a modern Dadaist example. The music of Bilderbuch, which just so happens to be my favorite band of all time. Bilderbuch is an Austrian band that was founded in 2005. They started off as a pretty normal indie rock band, but after 2 albums, they completely reinvented themselves. Their third album, Chic Shock, was much more experimental, funky and unusual. And it was a massive success. But why am I telling you this? Well, I think The Fountain may be the most famous Dadaist art piece, but I find Bilderbuch's music to be an even better representation of the Dadaist spirit I've been talking about this whole video. To understand it, we need to discuss the 2 most fundamental questions about art. The first one is something everybody has probably asked themselves multiple times. What even is art? How do you define it? Is this art? Or that? What about this? Isn't everything just art? Personally, I came to the conclusion that art is a synonym for expression, which makes nearly everything art, but any other definition would be too narrow for me. The other question is more interesting. Why do we consume art? I think every human is drawn to some kind of art, some kind of expression, because it's the best antidote to the inherent loneliness we all carry inside of us. We are separate entities that will never be able to fully understand each other. And even though art won't change that, at least it's what gets us the closest to understanding the inner lives of others and feeling understood. So I think the purer the artistic expression, the closer we can get to each other, the better. Which brings me back to Dada. Dadaism doesn't care about ratios, color theory or genre boundaries. What's unique about it is that authentic expression really is put above everything else. That's something you can feel in every Dadaist artwork, and it's especially true for Bilderbuch's music. If I had to pin it down, what I find so special and Dadaistic about this band is that the voice of their lead singer is used like just another instrument. And I don't mean that as an insult, but as a compliment. Way too many musicians focus too much on their lyrics in my opinion. They put language into the center of their songs, which can create a structured narrative, but most of the time this comes at the cost of expressing emotions the way they actually feel on the inside. Because our heads and feelings are much more chaotic and irrational than orderly structured words could ever fully portray. That's why I think instruments are superior to sentences. They can get much closer to expressing the erratic nature of our inner lives. Bilderbuch understood that. Their lyrics are mostly detached from the structuredness of language. More often than not, it's just gibberish from a grammatical perspective, or even the classic dabba di-do do di-dabba Dadaism is famous for. This way you don't just hear, but feel what these songs are about. That's the quintessential difference. I've been always the type of person who doesn't really pay much attention to the lyrics, and I don't think that's just due to laziness. I think it's because I consider sound the most expressive part of music. And Dada's music creates the purest and most expressive sounds I know. Anyway, I hope it became clear why I like the Dadaistic approach to art so much. If you feel differently about Dada and Bilderbuch, that's alright, art is subjective. Either way, thanks for watching and have a nice day.